Family Violence and Child Abuse by Sarah Balch. Hesitant to report abusers. A big one is that the victims are afraid of their abusers. In the case of family abuse, that the victim could be in love with the abuser because they weren't always like this. Even if someone else reports the abuse, the victim will not admit to the abuse once the authorities show up because they don't want to make their abuser mad. The victim tends to be financially dependent on the abuser because the abuser won't let them have a job or any type of income because they don't want them to leave. Socialization is when the abuser isolates the victim from all their friends and family. The big one for family abuse is when the victim thinks that the children need a father, so the victim will stay with the abuser, and if the victim tries to leave, the abuser threatens to take the children in the custody battle. Victims don't think that law enforcement and judicial authorities will believe them because that's what the abuser tells them. And Stockholm Syndrome is another big one because it's when the victims create a bond with their abuser and it can happen almost instantaneously. And the victim could sympathize with the abuser, and over time, the victim begins to develop feelings for the abuser and starts believing in everything the abuser does and says. Child abuse is a big topic. Physical abuse is when there is bruises, welts, burns, fractures, lacerations, and abrasions, and the behavioral indicators are aggression or withdrawal or frightened of parents. Physical neglect, physical indicators is when the child is malnourished and is always hungry and begging for food, or if the children's clothing is inappropriate to protect them from the weather that is happening that day, and or if the clothes are so dirty and smelly. The behavioral indicators are begging/stealing food, extended stays at school, early arrival, and late departure. The physical indicators for sexual abuse are difficulty walking, bruises and bleeding in inappropriate places, and the behavioral indicators are unwilling to change for gym or to participate in physical education class, withdrawal, unusual sexual behavior or knowledge. And then for emotional abuse, the physical indicators are failure to thrive, caretaker verbally abusing the child, and the caretaker condones the child to commit theft and prostitution. Next, we have domestic violence. Domestic violence can be very hard to see at first because most relationships don't start out that way and then it becomes visible over time. The abuser can prevent you from seeing friends and family, possibly keeping you from going from work to school, and controls you, can be possessive or constantly accusing you of being unfaithful. The abusers can get angry while drinking and doing drugs, threatening you with violence, and forcing you to have sex or sexual encounters against your will. In LGBTQ plus relationships, there are very different experiences also. They tell you that the authorities won't help because of the LGBTQ plus relationship. If you want to leave, they will say that you're saying LGBTQ relationships are abnormal. Women can't be violent, justifies the abuse by telling you that you aren't real LGBTQ. And approximately 1 in 3 women and 1 in 10 men 18 years of age or older experience domestic violence. Intimate partner violence is acts of physical violence, sexual violence, emotional and psychological abuse, controlling behaviors, and intimate partner violence has declined over 60% from 10 victimizations per 1,000 persons ages 12 or older to approximately 4 per 1,000. Some factors associated with women's increased likelihood for committing violence against her partner is lower level of education, violence between parents, acceptance of violence, and some factors associated with a man's increase of likelihood of committing violence against his partner is young age, lower education of violence, violence as a child, and acceptance of violence. And what that means is that they've grown up with violence, so that's what they think their relationship is supposed to have. Short-term impacts of child abuse are depression and anxiety, altered sleep schedule, regressive behavior, separation anxiety disorder, low self-esteem, and engagement in risky behaviors. The long-term impacts of child abuse are physical health problems, substance abuse, juvenile delinquency, and criminal acts, sociological, psychological, psychological and behavioral issues, impaired cognitive skills and executive functioning, and direct and indirect costs to society. And here are some helpful institutions to reduce child abuse. And here are some helpful institutions to help reduce family violence. And my references. Thank you.